It's time for the Las Vegas Sports Line, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, if you had the Pittsburgh Pirates, your team just blew the lead.
They were minus 1,700 in-game live wagering when they were up 4-0, Dave.
Jose Martinez off the bench. You're not going to find a better pinch hitter. He shouldn't be playing every day. I mean, they've got to find a way to get him in the lineup. I know he's not very good defensively, but the guy can rake. And Martinez just took Felipe Vasquez into the right center field alley, run-scoring double. And it's a 5-5 ball game at Pittsburgh. The perils of baseball. If you're, I'm not involved in this game, but if you had the Pirates, this is a tough one because this looked like a pretty easy win, and it's turning out not to be that.
As I said, Dave, when we did our previews this year, I liked the Pirates starting pitching. I liked the setup and the close. It was that little bridge to get to the setup guy from the starter. That was my concern.
Stop
and
using
that's
Rodriguez, okay? He was good last year. He's been terrible in 2 outings this year. That's Marco DeAngelo, who's back from Gulfstrea. We'll talk about that later on. I'm Dave Cokin, and Ari Platinum is on the other side of the console doing his usual outstanding production job. And we will tell you that the Cardinals and Pirates are tied 5-5 in the top of the ninth. The White Sox and Indians are scoreless in the third. Right now, we'll keep you updated on those and talk about some other baseball games later. It's the Monday show, which means it's sponsored by Station Casinos, and Chuck Esposito from Sunset Station will be along in just a little bit to talk about what took place this weekend. An exciting weekend, to put it mildly, where form finally went out the window a little bit, and we'll see how that how things transpired for the sports books in town. Final Four is set. So let's talk a little bit about that before we get to Chuck. And what did you expect to happen this weekend? What happened?
Well, Dave, there's a common denominator with the three of the four teams that are in the Final Four. Virginia, Texas Tech, and Michigan State. Common denominator, all play outstanding defense. Auburn, that's the one outlier. They are all offense. And, boy, did they put some points up over the weekend. Exciting games. The Virginia game, I'll be full disclosure, the Virginia-Purdue game, that I was on the right side of a wrong side winner, but I will take it because I've had my share of those.
Absolutely.
But I got to tell you, the kid for Virginia that had the heads up to make that pass instead of 2 more dribbles and heaving it from half court, unbelievable pass, catch and release to tie the game. You knew then the Virginia, going into overtime, definitely had the momentum off that play. They were going to win. I didn't think they were going to win in cover, but I was confident they were going to move on.
And they shouldn't have. Because, what transpired in the last 10 seconds was just downright bizarre. And if you had a Purdue, and I wasn't involved in the game, so this isn't a sour grapes rant or anything like that, but if you had Purdue, that's about as bad as it gets. I mean, it's 3. Virginia's supposed to foul. And whether they were going to or not, I don't know. But they didn't have to because the other team threw the ball away. And
then makes both foul shots.
That was an awful beat if you happen to have Purdue in the game. And if you had Virginia, that's one of those things, I'm heading for the high-limit slots because today's my lucky day. You know what?
Yeah, whenever I cashed that ticket, Dave, amazingly, they gave me the same amount of money as they would have given the Purdue people if they would have won.
All right. And then yesterday, Izzo finally exercises the demons against Coach K. He's had a terrible time in head-to-head meetings, despite the fact that I think most people will tell you they think Izzo is the better coach. Well, he was yesterday. And Michigan State did what they had to do late in that ball game and pulled it out, and Duke missed the critical free throw. Not that Michigan State was they were terrible from the line, 2 for 6 in the game, but Duke put themselves in an 8-ball situation by not committing fouls. They only had 4 fouls committed, and there was no way to commit 3 fouls basically in almost no time. They had to gamble on doing something against the Michigan State inbounds pass. The Spartans found the home run ball, and that's the end of the basketball game. That's the peril of not fouling because Duke was not in a position where they could stop the clock and force Michigan State to hit the first end of 1-on-1, which the way they were shooting fouls probably doesn't go in anyway. So Duke might add another shot to tie or win, but it didn't happen, and the Blue Devils are going home.
It isn't, and as good of a season as R.J. Barrett had, man, he missed some clutch shots.
He's not a good foul shooter.
I mean, from the field, too. They put up a graphic in that game. I think this year in the 3 losses that Duke's had in that final minute of crucial situations, he's 0 for 9 with shots.
Yep.
Not what you want from a money player.
All right, Final Four set. We've got a lot of games going on tonight, too. We've got a minor college tournament game. We've got Major League Baseball, NBA, too, but NBA is now in strictly garbage time until the end of the regular season. So our 4 at 4 will focus on that 1 college basketball game and 3 MLB matchups. 4 at 4 time now.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put them 4s up. Put the 4s up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
And we started, and by the way, I will be getting details tonight. I'll make sure and get them tonight on what's happening throughout the month of April at MJ Christensen in Boca Park, because it is their 80th anniversary, and it's going to be a month-long special. 80 years right here in Las Vegas, one of the oldest and most established businesses in our fair city. And it's anniversary celebration time at MJ Christensen. Let's talk first about DePaul in South Florida, and one of the minor, it's not the CBI, CIT, whatever, who cares? But it's an interesting ball game. Close line. South Florida's a very short favorite. And an interesting scheduling spot because DePaul has had the luxury of playing at home throughout this entire tournament. Now has to make the trip to South Florida, where the Bulls have been sitting at home. So one would think scheduling dynamics favor South Florida. And the other thing that might favor South Florida, DePaul is the last Big East team standing. And they've been the last Big East team standing for a while because that conference did not fare well in the postseason.
No, Dave, and you hit the nail on the head about this tournament. They handpicked almost trying to get the teams they wanted to get to the championship, and it's a best-of-3 championship, Dave.
Right, and now the next 2 games are at DePaul, so this really is a must-win for South Florida.
Absolutely, and Dave did a little history, talked with our buddy this morning, Ralph Michaels, called him up. I said, from memory, serves me, the home team's been dominant in this championship. We went back the last 3 years and confirmed that. 9-0 straight up in this the last 3 years. All 3 of them went the full 3 games. 7-1-1 against the spread to the home team. And with the short number, obviously looks like the point spread's not going to come into play here again tonight. A -2. Look at this one to pick up the winner. Do you like offense or do you like defense? Because you got contrary styles here. DePaul's going to go up and down the floor, Dave. In those 3 games in this tournament, they've scored 197 and 92 points. South Florida, on the flip side, last 2 games have held their opponents to 57 and 47. Something's got to give here. I'm going to go with the home side with the defense, and I will tell you this much. South Florida, off a home win this season, 12-3 against the spread in their next game. DePaul, 2-9 against the spread after 2 or more consecutive overs this year. The numbers say take South Florida. I'm not personally involved in the game,
no, I
but
backed
South
off
Florida.
It as well. And part of the reason they did was I think they put it in the number. I think it's all in the number because to me this is really a pick 'em game. Even at South Florida, I think DePaul's better than South Florida. They've got more weapons. Let's put it that way. And they've got a guy who can beat them up from outside. If Strum is hitting his shots from outside, DePaul can go nuts. So I backed off it. I mean, I don't think there's any question that. If you're looking at it from an angle standpoint, you've got to look at the Bulls. But to me, the odds makers are almost saying, here, go ahead and bet South Florida. And I don't like situations like that.
So CBI tonight stands for Can't Bet It.
Ooh, I like that. That's better than what the NIT, nobody's interested tournament. Although they get interested now. We'll talk about the NIT tomorrow. The Brewers are playing the Reds, and so far we've seen pretty clear on the Brewers, Christian Yelich is really good. Okay, yeah. Boy, oh boy, what a start!
He might just keep that MVP trophy from last year. What do you think?
He is off to a phenomenal start for the Brewers, and so is Josh Hader. And if you're handicapping Brewers games, you really have to look at Hader before you look at anything else, because when he's available, they have a completely dominant bullpen. He's giving up nothing over the last. Now he's going to be a 2-inning closer. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is that you know when Hader's available and when he's not. It's not one of those question marks. Oh, is he going to pitch? They're going to follow the same usage pattern. He's not going to pitch 2 days in a row. Well, he didn't pitch yesterday. So Hader is available tonight. If Hader wasn't available, I'd take the Reds in this game. He is, and that means if this is tight at the end, you got to favor the Brewers. So to me, if you're going to look at the Reds here, you got to go the first 5 option. And if you're playing full game, you'd probably look at the Brewers.
I agree with that thinking, and I am looking full game, and I am looking at Milwaukee here. The Reds are playing back-to-back for the first time this season. They played opening day.
They had a rain out.
They had Friday scheduled off.
Right.
Then they had that rain out Saturday. So Milwaukee's playing, win 3 out of 4 at home over St. Louis. And St. Louis, Dave, a lot of people think they're the team to surprise in the Central this year. I'm one of them. And they took 3 out of 4 of them, and they did it, good fashion. Yelich, what can you say?
Great comeback yesterday because Yelich again hits the walk-off double this time.
Yeah. Hits a home run and then earlier in the game, and he can go for history tonight, right? Nobody's hit 5 in a row, 5 home runs in games to start a season.
I don't know. I don't know.
I know there's 4. I know there's people tied at 4, but
yes.
I don't think anybody's done it at 5 straight to open the season.
Does Goldschmidt count because he has 4 homers in 4 games, but 2 of them came in 1 game?
No, they're saying home run in each of the first 4 games, and now this would be set the record with 5. If I'm the Cincinnati, I'm not pitching. Right, I'm not pitching to him tonight.
Yeah, you're not going to beat me. Somebody else can.
Tanner Rourke, this is a guy we talked about a lot last year. He's a guy that, for the most part, is just a mediocre pitcher. But he has those stretches where he can get good for a while. I'm not sure that I can back him here. I'm going to go ahead and take Milwaukee here. And Dave, here's a little stat for you. You like situational stats that are league wide. Here's one for you. Play against any team first 12 games of the season after closing out last season poorly with 11 or more losses in their last 15 games against an opponent first 12 games of the season that won 20 or more of their last 30. That applies in this one. And Dave, going back to 1997, this is a deep database on this one, 61-16 in that situation to go against Cincinnati. I'm on Milwaukee.
Cubs and Braves matching up tonight. Not a great weekend for either team. The Cubs, we talked about this, and part of the reason I went with the under on the Cubs for the win total, their bullpen stinks. Okay, and it really stunk over the weekend. Their starting pitching might not be any good. Darvish was horrendous. Lester got through his start all right. Now, the one guy I think is the most reliable for them is Kyle Hendricks. I think he's their best pitcher at this point. He pitched really well down the stretch last year. He really was good in all but 1 month last year. He had a bad June, and it kind of skewed his numbers for the season. But I like Hendricks. I don't like Sean Newcomb for the Braves, who's basically a one-trick pony. He does not have a secondary pitch. And he's not commanding his best pitch right now. He was all over the place in spring training. He walked, I think, about a batter an inning. That's the one thing I do look at spring training. I don't care if a guy's getting hit hard. If you can't control your pitches, that's an ominous sign. I think the Cubs are the right side in this ball game. Now, that said, a cautionary note, their bullpen isn't getting anybody out, and it's not like Hendricks is not going to go 9 innings. The good news is Atlanta's bullpen isn't getting anybody out either. I think the Cubs are the right side in this game. There's nothing wrong with the Cubs' offense. They have come out of the gate swinging.
28 runs in the first 3 games, Dave. Problem is they gave up 23 in those 3 games, losing 2 of the first 3. I agree with you, Kyle Hendricks, and you said he was very good down the stretch. How about he finished the season last year, 8 straight games, Dave, 2 runs or less. You can't ask for any more there. Newcomb got off to a great start last year, but, boy, he didn't finish good the second half of the season.
What happened is that hitters started realizing he's only got 1 pitch. Well, you can't get by as a starter with 1 pitch. Not to me. I think he's a bullpen guy.
He's faced the Cubs 3 times in his career. His team's 0-3 in those games. And here's a stat for you. Going back to the start of last season, Dave, the Chicago Cubs are 19-3 after a 1-run loss. I'm going to go ahead and take the Cubs, but I'm not going to put the bullpen into play. I'm going first 5, Chicago Cubs.
And we got the Rockies and Reds. Chad Bettis, who pitched well on the road last year for Colorado, and he's on the road tonight against Tampa, the first of this year's Rays openers. Stanek, the hard thrower, will start the game, and then I imagine it's going to be Yarbrough. After that, they'll go from righty to lefty, as they often do. We'll see how the Rockies do configure their lineup. Look, the Rays are off to a great start. That's a tremendous weekend against Houston, and it looks like the same recipe for Houston or for Tampa as we saw last year, which is We're not going to scare you with our lineup, but we're going to do enough to beat you on a regular basis. But the odds makers have caught up quickly.